Here comes Deaxz and Quix.
Either
Coming
that or
at
you
you
learn
fast with a podcast. Break it down, get it in your ears now fast. Quix, Deaxz, cast, pods.
Welcome back to Two in the Basement, a Dead by Daylight podcast. This week, I get to talk to an amazing content creator and friend of mine, Valarrys. We will talk all about Val's streaming journey, Dead by Daylight experience, and explore the unwritten Survivor and Killer rulebook that exists for this game. Of course, we will talk about the weekly shrine, and also get a spicy hint for Val's upcoming Halloween cosplays. Val, did you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Valarrys. I'm a full-time Dead by Daylight streamer from Australia as well. And I predominantly play... it used to be Survivor, but more recently, I think I've kind of taken a dive into more of the killer side of things. But I would still say it's a pretty even mix of both, I think. But I did start out on PlayStation, and I jumped over to PC probably around 6-7 months ago now, and I pretty much only play on PC now.
Well, it's amazing to have you. I actually didn't know that you started, like, you were Survivor and Killer. I pretty much have been watching you, not since you've only been playing Killer, but since you mainly played Killer. I know you love Billy, so that was pretty much what I've what I've experienced with your streaming stuff. I don't really see the Survive side. Only a couple of games here and there, so that's interesting news to me. I've already learned something today, and we're 1 minute into recording.
That's it. Yeah, I've kind of taken more of a liking to Killer recently, but when I just need to just like relax a little bit, I'll just jump back to Survivor because it's a lot easier to just kind of chill out a bit with Survivor and just kind of it's more like muscle memory with Survivor now that you can just kind of run around, do gens, find some totems.
It is. It's autopilot, isn't it?
That's
Where
it, yeah.
You just flick the switch and you go, okay, well, the game will run itself, and I'll download the latest update of running DBD, doing gens and totems, and I can talk to chat, or I can just chill out, listen to music, or,
Exactly.
just relax.
That's it, yeah.
Now, with streaming, you said, obviously, you're a full-time content creator now. That wasn't always the case. You were working and streaming, and you did start streaming, I think, in January of last year, so relatively, in Twitch time, you would say that that's quite new to streaming. What got you kind of into starting everything?
So my first ever stream was just a couple of days before the January of last year, so it ended up being the 27th of December of 2019, so pretty much January 2020 anyway. But I had started playing DBD a little bit before that, and I'd been playing like on and off since release, but I was always just playing solo, and I didn't really like focus too much on like builds and all the fun stuff, and like really getting into the nitty gritty of Dead by Daylight. I was just kind of playing because it's a horror game, a horror asymmetrical horror game. How could I not? And I didn't really have like any friends in real life that were playing Dead by Daylight or anything like that. So I was like, hey, why don't I try streaming and see if anyone wants to hang out, wants to play as well. And yeah, then it kind of went from there. And I don't know why I kind of went with Dead by Daylight, but I do not regret it because it's the only game I'm like somewhat okay at. Everything else is just kind of hit and miss. But it's been so much fun.
I doubt that though. I feel like you're a gamer. I've watched you play Resident Evil. I've watched you play some other games. You're always tearing the zombies apart.
Trying to.
I think that starting out streaming for that reason is like one of the most purest forms of wanting to start streaming. Just wanting to share your gaming with other people and hoping that maybe there's some other people that want to even join in with you and play. It's the exact reason why when I started streaming Fortnite. It was, I was playing this game anyway, and I was like, hey, look, I might find some other people who come by the stream or run into me in game. If I have like Twitch in my name or something, they might come by and be like, hey, you did really well, or I've been having bad games, you want to play some games? And I met heaps of cool people, and as I'm sure you have through your time streaming, where you actually play games. I play a lot of DBD offline, and I play with those same people that I that I've met on stream, I get to play with them off stream and just kind of like chill out and, do Discord or just, play some games or, play things other than Dead by Daylight as well. Like consider those people actually friends. So
Exactly.
it's a really cool and pure way to get into streaming. There's no other, there's nothing wrong with having, goals and things for wanting to do things for different reasons. But yeah, I really love that you've that was just your reason. You were just like, I want to find people to play games with. And if I put myself out on the big wide web, then surely I'll catch some people that are in the same boat. So
that's it. Yeah, I couldn't not. It just seems so like it was just going to be so much fun too, and it has been. But I didn't really like dive into like the YouTube DBD world until when would that be? I don't know. I kind of missed out on everything DBD on YouTube for a long while. I don't know why I never really made the correlation of like looking for...
In terms of watching DVD on YouTube? Or,
Yeah, the first thing I kind of went to was Twitch, and it was really the first thing I had ever watched on Twitch as well was Dead by Daylight, and it was the one thing I kept coming back to as well, which I think was a sure sign that I loved the game, because I was just always like, okay, this stream is on. I need to go see how their games are going and how they're doing and everything. Whereas like for some other games and stuff, it was always like storyline based games that I would like watch people play it and then see what they were playing next and that kind of thing. But DVD was the one thing that was like, I wonder what builds they're going to use, and I wonder what's coming out next and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it was always a new character or a new ability or something, especially since you've been playing back from the start or, relatively close to when the game came out. I've only been playing for less than 2 years. So we've got vastly different, memories of the game from how it was back then. I wish I could teleport back then and play back then, even though it was a super broken game. I would love to see all the broken aspects and everything. But it's quite funny that you actually were in the Twitch side of it so much when I was actually in the YouTube side of it, way more cool. When I first discovered the game. So I actually discovered Dead by Daylight through Battle Mick. We both know Battle Mick. Yeah. So I was watching Battle Mick since he was like a 5-viewer streamer playing Rocket League, and I loved him. I loved everything about him. And he started playing Dead by Daylight, and I was like, what's this game? Seems kind of interesting. So I watched a little bit. Didn't really take to it that much, but then I pretty much discovered like True Talent on YouTube. And all of his stuff, I was obsessed. I was just watching every upload, every video. I wasn't really watching Twitch that much at that point. I think Mick was like one of the first people I consistently started watching. So once I realized that, hey, these same people that are on YouTube are actually doing live stuff on Twitch as well, that's when I kind of like fell into that Twitch world. And now I 100% watch Twitch more than anything, more than TV, more than Netflix, more than YouTube. It's the new TV. I say this all the time, both in real life and on stream and wherever I can. Really, that we don't even need TV with our generation anymore.
Absolutely.
It's literally Twitch is that channel, and there's a reason they call it Twitch channels, because it's like you're hosting a TV show every night.
Exactly.
Which is amazing, because speaking of, I guess, a Twitch channel and successful Twitch channels, you managed to get partner in a little bit over a year. So that's a really incredible feat. I had Jelly Oddie, a UK streamer, a couple of weeks ago, and she was also someone that had started streaming kind of around the same time as you and also got partner a couple of months ago. So it's really, really cool to see people be able to start Twitch even. So I think Twitch has been around for like 7 years or something now, like being called Twitch, not Justin TV like it used to be called.
Back in the day.
And the fact that people can still go from, just being a new streamer to affiliate to blazing through everything and getting to partner. What's that journey been like for you? Have you just played DBD? I know that you do a little bit of variety. Obviously, you love horror games. So what's that been like for you?
Oh, thank you. It has been a lot of fun. I didn't expect, I never expected to reach partner. So that was, even to this day, it still blows my mind that I've even hit that, because I didn't I never expected to at all. I was shocked to even hit affiliate back in January of last year. I just didn't see it coming at all.
I think we all are, aren't we? When we hit that, we're like, oh, okay, this is happening. Yep,
that's it. It's been a lot of fun. I started doing variety more so in October of last year, kind of like leading up to Halloween and that. And that was
Halloween.
Halloween. That's it. And that was like through playing Phasmo, and I started Visage, and I tried to play Five Nights at Freddy's and yeeted out of that very quickly. So that was kind of the start of me playing variety, but I never really incorporated it into like a set day. I think it was kind of the start of the year, maybe around February of this year, which I think it was when I played at Dead of Night.
Okay, yep.
And then I just enjoyed having that one day that was going to be like a different game other than Dead by Daylight. So I have Dead by Daylight on the other days that I stream, but just like a variety game, so that way we can work through like different storyline based games and things like that. And I think like
break it up a bit.
That's it. Yeah, it was also The Last of Us Part 2. I think that came out mid last year. That was one of the first that kind of was like, hey, this is really cool to play storyline based games and hang out with the community and stuff. So it's been...
And having people still there is like the huge thing when you do change from that main game to a story-based game. It's very different to create content on a story-based game where you're just kind of reacting to what's happening in the game. That's very linear, but when you play Dead by Daylight, you can create your own kind of fun and content. So was it always the plan, I guess, to kind of... Did you have a plan in general when you started, gaining a community and everything, or, having those people coming back? Was it something where you're like, okay, Dead by Daylight works, like I'm just going to keep streaming this game? Or was it simply, it's just pure fun, so I'm just going to stream whatever's fun to me?
A bit of both, honestly. I wouldn't say that I ever wrote off like also doing some variety. But I never really started streaming with a plan in mind to go, okay, one day a week I will end up doing variety. It just kind of ended up happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think it was through like doing Halloween and stuff last year, and then playing like other horror games and that especially like Resident Evil, ones that I'd put off playing for years for some unknown reason. I'm like, why have I not played these games? They're so much fun. And then it just kind of kept going from there to see it like be received so positively. And then I'm also having a ball streaming games that isn't just Dead by Daylight too. So yeah, it kind of was, but it wasn't. I didn't really have I have like no...
That's kind of streaming though, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah,
it is, but it isn't. It's planned. It's planned chaos, really. So
absolutely,
you plan whatever you can, and then life happens and streaming happens, and then you just work accordingly around that. So I love that you've been able to do that, because as I know, but people should know, you are truly a horror fan in terms of like Halloween or Valloween, as we call it on stream.
Yes.
You do you've got your cosplay and stuff that you do, like a little bit of dressing up and stuff. Would you say you go like all out for the cosplay stuff, or is it just like it's a little bonus thing that you like to do every now and then, or is it something where you're like, okay, next month I'm definitely wanting to do this, cosplay or something like that?
It kind of varies a little bit. So October of last year for Halloween, I kind of picked the cosplays I was going to do very last minute. And because I picked it so last minute, I kind of set myself into freak out mode because I couldn't get everything I needed in time.
Yeah.
So I think I ended up changing the cosplays I was doing, and there was only 3 at the time. I think I ended up changing a few of them about 4 different times just because I couldn't find everything in time for it, because I started planning it too late. But this year I started...
Sounds like me.
Exactly, right? This year I started planning Halloween in February. So I've been planning
That's
it since
a lot
then.
of planning.
It is. I'm trying to do 7 cosplays.
Oh my goodness.
7 cosplays this
so
year.
Excited.
So it's a little bit stressful, but it's still very exciting. I did Sally earlier this year.
Yep.
And that was a lot of fun, and that one took quite a few hours to do as well, being like all the makeup and everything that she requires. So some of them do, and I hope that I can. I'm trying to figure out how to best word this. That I can do what I'm planning on doing for Halloween this year successfully.
Me too. And speaking of the makeup, like that is a signature of yours, the eye makeup that we get to see change every stream, and that we look forward to seeing what look you're gonna have. Was the cosplay stuff, is that something you've done previous to streaming, or is that just something that came up because you were like, hey, I'm on Twitch anyway, and I'm playing, and I love horror, so people are enjoying this, so I'm just going to keep doing it more. I know some people have like art backgrounds where they've always done kind of like, dressing up and stuff offline and going to events and things. Like, how did that kind of get started?
So I've done a few cosplays previously.
Okay.
The first one that I ever did was Frostfire Annie from League of Legends.
Okay, yep.
So I did that one a few years back, and then I've done Chloe from Life is Strange a couple of times as well, where I've painted on her sleeve, her sleeve tattoo on her arm.
That's awesome.
I've painted that on, and those were kind of the first ones, but
what were they for? Were they for anything? Like, were they for going to a gaming event, or like
EB Expo?
Oh, amazing! Love that.
When EB Expo was a thing in Sydney. So those were the first two I ever done, and Frostfire Annie was a mistake because I decided that spring going into summer would be the best time to need to wear leg warmers for the outfit. So I was like, this was not a good idea because it was hot and boiling, and I had these leg warmers and like a super heavy, it was like similar to like a parka kind of thing. So I had one of those on as well, and it was just so hot. And I was like, this was not a good idea.
Yeah, it's Australian summer is never a time to wear any more clothes than you have to ever.
It's rough.
But that's really cool. I like that you had a little bit of background, I guess, earlier before even coming to streaming, because I know that it's something I've had some cosplay goals met, and I don't know, it's one of those things where if you really, really want to do it justice, I think that's kind of what you were getting at. You want to do these costumes justice and these characters justice that you want to dress up for Halloween. So you're really hoping that it just like pays off. I will ask, because we have you on the podcast. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if your community knows any of the stuff that you're going to be trying to pull off, but when we get to the end, we can maybe get a little hint or sneak preview for what you're gonna try, and then the lucky podcast listeners will get to know a little bit more than everyone else.
Sweet, cool, sounds good.
With going back to Dead by Daylight, so as you said, you've been moving into Killer, playing Survivor mostly, but then really, really enjoying the Killer side of things. What is it about, I guess, Dead by Daylight that is like your most enjoyed kind of thing? Is it the fact that you get to play it with members of the community? Is it that you get to get some frustration out by playing some Killer and murdering some people? Or obviously it's probably a combination, but is there any one thing that kind of stands out over others?
Yeah, it really would be a combination. I think one of the big things about Dead by Daylight is that it is such an easy game to be able to stream and play. In terms of knowing that I kind of like know generally like where I'm going, and to be able to focus on reading chat. I think in that regard it makes it a lot easier for my brain to be able to keep up with chat and just kind of let kind of cruise control just take over for the game for the most part. So I would say that, but also based on how interactive it can be. And being able to Swift as well, have 3 other members of the community jump in and play some games as well is awesome. So it's kind of a mix of both, but what would you say it is for you?
Well, for me, I started playing Killer mostly when I picked the game up. So it was just that feeling of being able to be the only person that was in control of what was happening in the game, because
Yeah.
I started playing DBD offline a little bit before I started streaming it. But when I did start streaming it, I was playing, Wraith only, and I was doing Killer all the time, every stream, and it was a lot of fun. And I didn't have anyone to blame. No, any mistakes that I made were all my own. So
Yeah.
I've definitely, we noticed that there's different people that play this game and have fun, as we're talking about, for different reasons. So I feel that you and I are quite different in the way that we play Dead by Daylight, in terms of, you're a lot more chilled, and, we're both hanging out with our community and wanting to chat and kind of enjoy our time there. But I'm just not going to sugarcoat it. I'm a sweat when it comes to games. So like, I want to get in there and just absolutely push myself to the next limit. So I think that's why Killer and learning the game was really the thing that stood out to me. I think learning is something that I really, really enjoy, and seeing progress and getting better at something is one of my favorite things to do in life, whether it's gaming or bettering myself or whatever it might be. So I think that was my favorite aspect of Dead by Daylight when I first started. It was just the fact that I could see my actual progression. I could see me getting better at a certain role, whether it was Killer or Survivor. And then when I transitioned to Survivor, I could also go from, barely being able to run and run into a wall to what I can do now. And I can actually see the growth and the difference.
Yes, that's massive as well. And I think it's important too, that when you do play both Killer and Survivor, you're able to bring aspects from one side of it to another, because as an example, playing as Survivor, in some situations what you would do if you were the Killer, so you can kind of already try to counter that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's it. So it's so, oh man, it's so cool.
It really is. It's a really one of a kind game. As we know, there's a bunch of games that have come out recently that have been trying to rival it. There is another one that's on its way out called VHS.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of that. That looks wacky. that looks insane.
I've seen bits of it. I haven't seen too much of it though, but I am really excited to see where it goes.
I highly suggest to watch the developer game or the dev game on YouTube. If you just type in VHS dev game, it'll come up. Apart from the guy that plays the Killer, who looks like he is having the worst day of his life.
Oh no.
All the survivors look like they're having heaps of fun. So that scares me a little bit, because the last thing we want is a DVD clone where killers look like they're having the worst time of their lives sometimes. And the survivors are just running rampant. But it looks pretty wacky with all the different abilities and everything, based around 80s horror type stuff. So
yeah, that part looks awesome.
I've signed up. There is a beta as well, so if you're interested, I can send you the link for the beta after.
Yes, please.
Because who knows if we get in or not? But it's a cool thing that goes along with streaming, is when you can find these betas and stuff. If you can get yourself and people from your community in, you already have people to play with. You don't have to worry about that whole am I going to get a lobby together? Am I going to be able to find anyone else that has the beta? It's like you've got 50, 100 people that you can potentially send this out to. If you've got Discord, you can always post it in a Discord, and people will be like, yes, I'm down to any new content or anything that's related to, horror type stuff. I'm in.
100%. That's it. No, I'd be definitely keen to try out the beta as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I am very, very excited for that. In terms of DBD again, with the way that we stream, so I'm very educational when it comes to both Killer and Survivor, explaining through my plays and I guess talking about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. With your gameplay, I guess, with the more chill aspect, as I call it, is there a reason that you? Because I feel like a lot of the time you are kind of just playing, and the result isn't really a worry to you. It doesn't matter if you get 4 kills when you're playing Killer or 0. It doesn't matter if playing Survivor, if you escape or if you don't. You are just really, really there for the journey. And I guess for me, someone that is more not focused on the end goal, but the end goal means, I guess, a little bit more to me in my eyes.
Yep.
I don't know have you been competitive in in real life outside of gaming or anything, or is it you've just always been someone that wants to get out there and play more than just compete at a game or something?
Kind of. I can get a little bit competitive when I play the likes of COD.
Yeah.
But for some reason when I play Dead by Daylight, I'm just more so like there to have a good time. I just really enjoy the game, and I do still try to get kills and stuff. But I just try to play the game as fairly as possible too, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So that
sure.
if I can finish the game and 4K, and feel that I've played fairly and that it was like an all round great game, that to me is a win. Even if I don't necessarily get the 4 kills as well, but think I played as best as I could, that is still like, I would probably say one of the most important things to me, because I feel like it's important to make sure, for me personally anyway, that the other survivors, if I am playing killer, are also having a good time. Because I don't want it to, the last thing I would want is to like, is for anything to like snowball, and then, we have less people playing because they're just kind of continually having bad games or anything like that. So in that regard, I do try to play as fairly as I can, and if I can get the kills or if I can escape, then that is just a bonus. But if I can have some fun and some jokes along the way and some memes, then that's even better.
Yeah, no, it's so true, and it's something that people don't think about. And this is one of it leads perfectly. We'll go back to that a little bit because that's one of the main things that I wanted to chat to you about as well, in terms of the fairness of the game and stuff like that. But it is so important to remind people, and I'm glad that it's something that you brought up now, and it's something that's on your stream, because I also I never played unfairly, but I definitely play to win. I play
fair.
a little bit different compared to some other people, and by no means am I saying that I'm better than this person, or
exactly,
you're like, this person's not good or whatever. It's everyone plays differently.
Absolutely.
But it's so important to have the reminder that there is 4 other people on the other side of that game. There is 1 other person on the side of that. If you're playing Survivor and you're playing Killer, there's a human, like there is a literal human being on the other side of that. We were talking about this the other day, and we were talking about, people feeling targeted personally off, even as a streamer or even not as someone that streams, even if you're just playing the game with the end game chat on PC, like people will come at you if they know you somewhat, mostly streamers, because we give ourselves to the internet. We tell people more things about our lives, so there's more information or ammunition out there. But basically, when people make personal attacks about you as a person when you're just playing a game, it's so disheartening for me. And
it is,
what you're saying, we could have I don't want to have a direct result of the way I play that makes someone stop playing the game, because that would be it would be horrible, because I would feel terrible that that person has stopped playing the game because of what I've done.
Yeah.
But also, it's going to, the player base just gets lower and lower and lower and lower.
Absolutely.
To the point where no one's going to be playing. So
exactly, yeah, I feel the same thing as well. That's why I do try to kind of turn most of my games. I still try to do as well as I can, and still try to 4K when I play Killer and that. But if it is a fair game at the end and the survivors escape, that's absolutely fine by me. It's all just fun. And the one thing I try to I try to remember as well is that I leave every game at the exit gates.
Yep, it's such a good mentality.
That's it. You just gotta leave that game there. The entity has claimed that game now. It's done and dusted. On to the next one.
If only we could go into the minds of some people and just instill that in them, that would be amazing. Because as I said, we were talking, myself and a couple other people were talking in depth in someone's stream about this literally yesterday, about how it's sad to see people forget that there is a literal human on the other side of this, and we're all trying to have fun. That's the thing. Whether fun to that person is getting the 4K, or fun to that person is doing the head-on memes and doing the
Yeah,
flashlights
exactly.
and all that stuff. Like it's a game at the end of the day. We're
Yeah.
all trying to have fun, and I don't jump on a game to not have fun. You know, you're definitely those people that work, you know, a full-time job. They come home and they've slogged away for 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever, and they jump on the game, and the last thing that they want to do is feel berated for just playing the game and having a bit of fun.
Exactly.
Because they played in a certain way, because you're just getting on there to chill out, blow off some steam, or maybe you've had a bad day at work, maybe you're just having a bad week or something, and it's kind of the blessing and the curse that comes with having an asymmetrical game where there's a 4v1 or there's a more dominant side or majority of people on one side compared to the other. Is there anything, do you think, that we can do stuff to combat that, but is there anything in the game that you reckon that they can combat that? Obviously they've tried to introduce the filters now for the endgame chat.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would suggest to someone if they're like struggling with kind of, I guess, a bit of negativity or anything, toxicity in the game?
The main thing that I always try to remember personally is that it's not personal.
Yep.
And I think that is like one of the most important things to remember is that, like generally if someone, you know, has a bad game or anything, it's not necessarily just about that game. And you just happen to be on the receiving end, of it. So it's very rarely that someone would be being rude to be a personal attack. So I think ultimately too, if you can, to try to not read the endgame chat. Like if you can always click the button to hide it and just skip on to the next game or anything like that. But two, I think if you played, you know, if you played in a way that you would be happy with, again, it wouldn't be anything personal that the person is, you know, is trying to be like blatantly rude or anything like that. You just happen to be on the receiving end of frustration.
Yeah, that's they're really good points, and it's so interesting that it's both it works for both sides. Like remembering that it's not personal in terms of, you know, the negativity or the things that people might say to you, but also remembering that it is personal in the way that there is a person playing the game as well. So
100%.
It works though both those ways. And I've even started playing a little bit differently in terms of the builds that I'm using as killer now. I've been playing a lot of Survivor for the last 6 to 8 months, and I've noticed, you know, a lot of those super slow down builds that people run with, you know, your ruins and your pops and undying and stuff like that. Survivors don't really enjoy having to go against that as much as they would, because, you know, they obviously have to try a little bit harder, and sometimes they just want to chill and relax. So I've actually taken any general aggression off my builds at the moment. I'm just playing through and just, you know, it's not a huge deal, but it means that sometimes I might lose games that I would previously win because I don't have that perk to carry me through. But I am finding that it's helping me kind of get into that zone of just enjoying the game more, and just being like, oh well, you know, I tried my best, and if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But
exactly,
I'm still just having fun and playing the game. So
yeah, 100%. I also haven't. I don't really run exhaustion perks on Survivor anymore. Yep. Because I found that I was relying on them way too hard. So I tend to really only run like adrenaline.
Or head on or something.
Yeah, or head on or something like that. But like generally speaking, I tend to not run them. But I've also been doing with killer. I've been running the likes of Blood Warden, like just randomly in my build to see if people come to expect it, because you generally now come to expect the ruin, undying, barbecue like meta in the game. So I've been like just trying to shake that up a bit, and for specifically for Huntress, I've been running Blood Warden to see how many people come to expect it, and for the most part people don't. They don't. I was
going to say, and do they ever expect it?
they don't. So it's been really fun to test that out and to see like what people, especially like endgame chat, I've gotten a few times people being like, oh, that damn Blood Warden, I didn't see it coming, and I was like, yes, that was what I wanted, to try and shake it up a bit and see what kind of value I can get out of perks that don't get a lot of love sometimes.
And that's the crazy thing about this game is when you use a perk that's not used very often, people tend to not get as annoyed by it, or they're not like, oh, another Noed, another ruin, another this. They're like, oh, Blood Warden.
Yeah,
Wow.
hang on a second.
Okay, they got me good. Like
Yep.
they got me good with that, and that's cool. I like the fact that there are these different perks in the game for that reason. Where Blood Warden's not going to work out all the time,
Exactly.
Rarely, unless you're like forcing it to work out. But it is nice in those games where you see the survivors at the exit gate and you're like, you don't even know what's coming. You don't
Exactly.
even know what's going right now. And then you see them scrambling, running against the exit. And you see those auras, and you're like,
That's it.
yeah, that's right. I'm coming for you.
You can almost hear the fear.
Yeah, and that's the best thing. This is another thing that I was talking about yesterday, and something that potentially Dead by Daylight needs more of is stakes in the game to actually the fear. There's no fear in this game. When you first start, there is genuine fear in this game.
Yeah.
When you're playing as a survivor, when you hear that heartbeat, or you hear like a hillbilly chainsaw rev or something like that, or the wraith rings his bell right behind you, it's scary. Like
It is.
You freak out. The heart rate rises, and I feel like that really, really goes away quite quickly depending on how much you play the game. So I would love to see more of a fear factor come into the game and feel like, okay, this is actually scary, or what I'm doing is actually important, not just, okay, well, I go in and go out and then I just go back into another match.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's mainly only the jump scares that get me now. When you all of a sudden have a Mikey behind you or a ghosty or
Hag is the one that gets me.
Really?
The hag traps. I can tell you, I've played, I think I just have just over 3K hours in this game right now. I can tell you that even if I get up to 10K hours in this game, a hag trap will always scare me. It will never not scare me, because even if I know it's there, I'm like, it's the way it just pops up in your face and it takes control of your camera, and it just sends me into another dimension.
That's it. I have a newfound fear as well of Legion bunnies.
Oh my goodness.
I had a community member use a Streamloots card to make me search the basement chest, and I didn't realize that same community member was sniped us in the game and was playing killer and was waiting in the basement.
Oh, that would have been so good. The way that little the big bunny smile with the blood as well.
I just rounded the corner to see them, and I just screamed and ran. So
Screamed
scary.
and never came disabled.
That's it.
Deleted that card.
Exactly.
Deleted all the copies that anyone had of it.
Uninstalled.
No resources. No crafting. You're all banned. I'm done with
exactly.
streaming.
It was so scary. I wasn't expecting it at all. So it's I think it's those the jump scares that you're not expecting as well. You can kind of prepare yourself for a Michael Myers jump scare or a Ghostface jump scare, because once you're versing a stealth killer that is what they ultimately need to try and do to be effective with their own power. So when you have the killers that you're not expecting to not hear a terror radius for or anything like that, and you just round a corner and see them standing there, it's so scary.
Yeah, I did this the other day. Someone made me run Insidious on Wraith. So obviously that's a terrible perk for a killer that's a stealth killer. But I actually got it to work at one point. So I uncloaked and I stood still against a wall, and then the survivor thought that I'd left, and they came running around the corner, and I hit them, and I reckon that I would have scared the pants off them, because they would have been like, hey, what? He's not cloaked? How did he do this? He's hacking.
I love that.
Because no one sees Insidious unless it's a bubba in the basement.
Exactly.
Like, that's the only time you really expect it.
Exactly.
So,
And again, you come to expect it after the first time, so you kind of prepare yourself for the jump scare, so it's not as scary when it's a killer that you come to expect the jump scare from.
exactly. But well, I guess kind of touching on the whole stakes thing, and like adding a little bit more, I guess, fear into the game. Have you would have heard of the game Hunt Showdown, where you obviously you get a hunter and you go into the bio, and if you die, you lose that hunter, and like you lose the perks and stuff that you had on them and the weapons. We were talking yesterday again in the same stream I was watching, we were talking about potentially, and a little bit in my stream, we were talking about maybe there could be a way to introduce something like that, but it might be a little bit too late for DVD now. But a game, even a game like this VHS game, where the stakes are higher, that it'll give more weight to actually escaping and trying to do the objectives. Because right now in Dead by Daylight, the meta is, and the thing is, for the people that play it, like the higher MMR, the higher level, they just want to be in chases all the time. But the reality is there's only one killer, so there can't be 4 people in a chase all at the same time. So the other people that aren't in chase are either running around with flashlights waiting for the killer to down the person, which is fine, but that puts, that can frustrate the killer at the end of the day, because they just feel like the survivors aren't doing the objective, and then it gets to a point where it feels like the survivors are so much better than the killer potentially, and they're just bullying the killer because, they can't down these survivors or whatever. Or you have survivors that are only going in to do the generators and have no issues, which is fine because that is the objective. But we were just kind of talking about, is there a way for the objectives to have more weight for those higher or more long-term players? Because there needs to be an incentive to completing the generators and actually doing the totems and the objectives. Otherwise, people just avoid doing them, and then when they don't get chased, they just complain and get annoyed that they've not been able to be chased or something. So we were thinking like even a system where you get a character, so it can be still Bill or Feng or whoever in the game, and then you get perks that you earn with with certain points, and you equip those perks. The more times you escape, the better perks you can keep equipping to your character. But then if you die, then you have to essentially purchase another character, pretty much exactly the way that Hunt works.
Okay.
But for an asymmetrical game like this, because it raises the stakes of the game. It means that, yes, you can still not care about the result, and you can still not care about the result as in ignoring the objectives completely just to mess around and do nothing in the game. Not even to do like the head-on memes or anything, like just simply to to completely ignore everything. I guess, do you think that would kind of work? Maybe not in Dead by Daylight, but even in a future game?
I reckon in a future game that could probably work, but for something like Dead by Daylight, I think with the likes of Pinhead, where where the survivors need to stop doing the gens to go and find the box so that they don't have the chains on them and that kind of thing, I think that was a really good idea for them to add. So it's in a way it's helping the killer to, in a way, it's like his own power is sort
like a natural slowdown.
Yeah, like a gen slowdown kind of built into him, because someone needs to find it. Someone needs to find that box. So I think with the likes of Dead by Daylight, things like that, where each killer, I don't know how they would be able to add it in for like previous killers that are out, but to have an added task, I think that kind of will help slow down the gens that little bit, would kind of be enough for Dead by Daylight. But for another game or for future games, I think that idea of making it kind of like an all or nothing situation sounds like it'd be really fun.
Well, because it creates that it might even bring the fear back, where you're actually genuinely. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, it's just going to create immersed survivors who hide and do nothing and are sneaking around. But that I wouldn't mind playing against survivors that are actually stealthing rather than trying to be in my face all the time and show off and show off their good skills. It is fun to play against survivors sometimes that are just sneaky around and doing the objective and trying their hardest to be those stealthy survivors that don't get caught. It can be frustrating, obviously, when you don't see any survivors because they're all stealthing around, and then you lose through generators or something, and you're like, how?
That's it. And then 20 minutes. 20 minutes has passed.
Exactly. But it could raise, it raises those stakes, and for survivors especially, it creates a more urgency, like a more of an urgency to actually escape and do well, because I could imagine that, hey, I've escaped 5 games in a row, now I get access to this cool new item or this cool
Yeah.
perk or something. The killers, oh hey, you stopped 3 survivors getting out or whatever in your last 5 games. Here's an extra thing that you can use, because that would not only make the game different, again, more different every couple of games. It would also add that fear factor back, because it's just completely gone from Dead by Daylight once you get to a certain point, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I think as well that they had also tried to like previously implement that with Nemesis and having the zombies, where it's kind of like that extra. There's that extra something that survivors have to keep in mind and be concerned about. Whereas you have like the killers that have come out a long time ago, when you know that you're versing a huntress, that you just have to keep an eye out for those stray hatchets coming flying across from the other side of the map and that kind of thing. So I feel like that extra sense of urgency is massive, and I think even adding more variety to items, I don't really know what else they could kind of add in there, but more, I guess, something other than a flashlight, a med kit, and a toolbox for survivors as well could be fun. We do obviously get like the firecrackers and stuff for events, but I don't know. A new item would be I think would be massive and be just so much fun. Yeah.
I think that potentially, I don't know how much you know about I say no, but I don't know if you know of the Boon totem that's going to be coming out for survivors. Obviously, when I say no, I don't actually know anything either. I just know what I've heard.
Yep, that's it.
But that in itself excites me, because that is going to be a different, not a different item, but it's going to be a different gameplay mechanic. Again, we've just got the box, we've got the scourge hooks, we've got, the hex play thing where it spawns a hex totem that's, ongoing through the game. It grabs dull totems and turns them into, hex totem, which is nothing new because we've had Noed, but it's exciting to see them to do the Boon. Do you have any ideas? Because I was talking about this in stream yesterday. Do you have any ideas about what powers you potentially would like we could see, or anything you would like to see as a survivor from one of those survivor totems?
Oh, that is a really good question.
I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But I can give you an idea of mine, and then
what's yours?
give you a little bit of time to think about something that you might think. The one thing that stuck out to us recently is that they've been, with Hex Plaything, they brought in a totem where only from a certain distance you can see that totem. So within 16 meters, that totem lights up for the survivor.
Yep.
It's also a totem that's been brought in where it's blocked for all other survivors, except for the first one in that first 90 seconds. So 2 mechanics that we haven't seen in the game previously. The totems lighting up we have with Detective's Hunch and maps and things like that. But I don't think there's any other perks that passively light up totems. There's small game that kind of makes the little little noise, but that's about it. So we were thinking that someone brought this up in chat actually, a kind of beacon. So in like I guess like World of Warcraft is a thing that I can kind of think of off the top of my head, where you would put down like a beacon that kind of, or like even a totem they use in World of Warcraft that buffs a certain area. So it's like an area of effect. So someone was saying, if you found, let's say you found a totem and you because as far as we know, you have to bless the totem. I've looked in I don't know if you've seen, but in the settings for DBD at the moment, there is a description of boon totems, roughly. I think they accidentally added into the game when they weren't meant to do it, or they're preparing to bring it in mid-chapter, someone was saying, because you know how Hag has all hex totems as her things. They were saying maybe that boon totems are coming mid-chapter, and the next original Survivor is going to have a full boon totem perk layout, like perk build.
Interesting.
So could be interesting. All speculation, but still very interesting. But they were basically saying, so if you run over to this area and that totem is blessed by a survivor, you gain an extra like 10% healing speed or 15% healing speed in that area of effect of the totem. Or it would have to be something. It can't be like a generator, because if there's one right next to a generator, then the effect will just persist for the whole entire time you're doing that generator. But we've seen leader with light.
Exactly.
When, that essentially blesses the survivor or gives them that effect for, that 15 seconds or whatever, or however long it is. And then, they can carry on those effects for that time when they're out of the radius. So it's not something that they haven't done before. They just haven't done it with totems. So I don't know if that idea sounds cool or too far-fetched, but that was one of the ideas we had.
Yeah, I like that. I think they would have to possibly put like a limit or something. Otherwise, I feel like there'd probably be some form of a way to just kind of
to cheese
bless,
them.
yeah, and to just try and like bless the whole map.
Yeah.
So I think there'd have to be like some sort of limit as well. Otherwise it could get out of hand very quickly. But I do love that idea. That would be really cool. I wonder how you would be able to kind of see, or if you would. Do you think that there would have to be like some sort of way to kind of know aura-wise of where that area ends, or do you think it'd just kind of be like similar to like a killer's terror radius where you just kind of have to hear the heartbeat?
I feel like for some reason in my head I just have this like image of a blue, like this like transient blue like light that's like in a circle around an area with a totem, but it's probably not going to be that because we don't really have anything like that. But for some reason that's just what came to my head, because I imagine hex totems are red or fire.
Yeah.
And for some reason I imagine boon totems as blue.
Yeah, the opposite. Yeah.
I don't know why. I feel like blue is just like a safe color, and I for some reason that's just been in my head ever since I heard the boon totems. They just they've just been created as blue in my head. But it could even be the fact that you just have to look for you have to look for that little item, the icon down the bottom. Or there could be, we just got Pinhead and the box. When you pick up the box, it plays the little lullaby sound and you become oblivious. So maybe with a boon totem, there's a little sound bite that plays when you're in the blessed area, kind of like a choir being like, oh, something like that. I don't know. Like, there's endless possibilities, but it'll probably be something something boring and small that we realize that just needs to be in the game, and it can't be this extravagant thing. But so you go.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I hope we get more like if it is possibly related to like the yellow glyphs, where you have to like hit those skill checks back to back to like activate them or something. Because that was a very, very interesting thing that they added without kind of mentioning anything else about it. It's just kind of like, do this yellow glyph challenge. Everyone's like, what is this? Then all of a sudden you're trying to hit these impossible back-to-back skill checks, and if you miss, you need to go find it again.
Against the doctor as well.
Yeah.
When they're going backwards and
oh god. So
I loved that.
Me too.
When they came out.
Me too. It was a lot of fun. It reminded me, not to the same degree, but it did remind me of like old Ruin, where you had to hit the tiny skill checks to
exactly,
to keep going. So it'll be fun though if they can introduce anything more with the yellow glyphs too. I think that would be really neat.
I love the fact that it moved away as well. It wasn't just something that you could just spam, try again and repeat. It actually forced you to move to a different area. So that was really, really cool with the yellow glyphs.
I agree.
My one kind of worry with the boon totems, and obviously we're speculating about something we have no real information on, but I guess, was there any ideas that you had potentially? Because we were talking about how it can't be too strong, because that means the killer is going to have to go out of their way to definitely remove the totem, because, it's going to not break the game. But, when a killer has a hex, you can still play around that hex. Like if the killer has the, we call it hex no windows, where it blocks the windows when you go through it, or they have like, you know, hex plaything where you're oblivious. Like, you can still play the game without doing those totems. It makes it a bit harder for yourself, but you can still do it. Whereas I feel like playing the killer role, they're gonna add another thing where the killer has to go and destroy that totem, and that is going to add yet another objective for the killer that's already balancing gens and chases and all of this stuff. So if the effect was really strong, then it might become a little bit unfair for the killer. But then if the effect is not enough, then no one's going to use it.
Exactly, especially if it is something like where if it isn't balanced correctly and every survivor can bring it in, and the killer's trying to find, you know, four different boon totems to even progress the game, that's going to be ridiculous. But I think if they can find a way to balance it, similar to what you said too about like one area being that blessed area, if the killer can see that too, I feel like that may work well in terms of being like a risk versus reward. Like you're getting that extra buff, but the killer knows that it's happening, and it's up to them whether they're coming to stop you or something like that. So I feel like that could help balance it a bit, but I also don't know if that could throw it too far, maybe
not too weak to the point where it's just not going to be used. Yeah,
that's it. To where it's just kind of not even worth bringing at that point.
We were also talking about the idea of the fact there's probably going to have to be new totems. Like, if there's only 5 totems and a killer brings a full hex build, then there's no free totems for a survivor.
True.
So we were thinking that instead of a hex being cleansed and it blowing up, if you had a boon totem perk and you went to one that was a hex, you would turn it into a boon totem potentially. But the wording of the boon totem description definitely says bless a dull totem. So it doesn't seem like that would be the case. So I'm thinking we might even see more than 5 totems in a game going forward.
Yeah, possibly. It'd be funny too, like if they somehow introduce that, like, even if a hex totem is like destroyed or something, and the survivor runs up and you just see the survivor rebuilding the totem.
Oh, that's even cooler.
That could be so fun. And then that's how they then bless it after that, by kind of like rebuilding it and kind of claiming it as the survivor boon totem instead. That could be a fun little twist.
You just blew my mind, because I was just thinking with perks that we've had, like appraisal, where you get 3 tokens to rummage through a chest that's already been opened.
Yeah.
If you have a boon totem perk where you have 3 tokens and you have the chance to rebuild 3 totems that have been broken, because obviously your fellow survivors might be breaking them too, you can rebuild, up to 3 totems or...
That's it.
You just blew my mind.
They then could also go like a risk versus reward thing of, if the killer then destroys like the survivor's boon totem, that they get a hex perk back. So that's kind of adding a massive risk for possibly a high reward if it plays out that well.
And that's how totems are meant to be, aren't they? They're meant to be
exactly.
High risk, high reward. That's what they say anyway.
100%. That's it. It'll be interesting though to see where it all goes.
The main thing that we have, and the last thing to touch on this, is that I want it to be a survivor buff. I don't want it to be a killer debuff.
Yes.
I want it to be something for the survivors, because we don't need the survivors having a different way to debuff the killer when the killer is just trying to play
100%
and has no control over that.
That's it, yeah, because then you're also adding in like too many things for the killer to worry about, whether it be items or the other perks in the game, and then the wall tiles, and then not to mention how maps can come into play with it too. It could be way too much if it is a killer debuff.
Exactly. It was too overwhelming and just too much going on. So trying to keep it simple, but also not boring.
That's it. Simple but effective.
Talking about, I guess, the streaming side of things, and kind of leaning towards the more content creation with Dead by Daylight, we did have, and you would know this, as Carla became one of our newest Fog Whisperers in the OCE region. So we couldn't be happier for Carla, obviously.
100%.
one thing that you strive for. Well, I'd say most people are striving for if they're playing Dead by Daylight and they're, they have a good following, or they, are wanting to kind of feel like they can make a difference to the game. It's something they're always striving towards, being a Fog Whisperer, being a direct Dead by Daylight partner. Is that something that you've ever, or that you consider? I can't remember if I ever see the Into the Fog thing in your title or not, but is it something that is interesting to you, or are you happy just kind of doing your own thing?
Yes, so I've kind of always wanted to be a Fog Whisperer ever since I kind of found out like what the Fog Whisperer program was. Originally, I wanted to be, I originally, when I was only on PlayStation, I wanted to be the first Oceania PlayStation Fog Whisperer. But then I ended up jumping over to PC anyway.
You can still switch back. It's fine. You can switch back, and they'll come to you.
That's it. But yeah, I would absolutely love to. And seeing Carla reach that milestone was massive, and I'm so happy for her. She absolutely deserves it. So I hope that they do continue to get more Oceania Fog Whisperers too, because it's just so cool, and it's such a massive achievement too. It's something that I had like aspired to reach on the same level as reaching Twitch partner. So I would absolutely love to.
Yeah, I think it holds the same amount of weight as well, because one is your streaming platform that you're partnering up with, and then one is the game that you're playing with, essentially partnering up with as well. So
exactly, yeah, it would just be so amazing.
I feel like it does give us a little more hope with having. We have Geef as a Dead by Daylight partner. We have Granny as well.
Yeah.
As a Fog Whisperer. We have Carlo now. There's probably another one there, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. But I feel like it gives more hope for the Oceanic region to get kind of noticed, or even having someone there in your corner. Like, obviously, I know Carlo on a personal basis off stream as well, to a degree, and having someone that you can go to talk about the game, and actually potentially I had an issue with a certain thing that was going on, and I was able to voice it to her, and she was able to actually bring it up in the Fog Whisperer Discord, and it actually got acted on. So it was kind of cool to have someone that you trust, and that they trust you enough to actually listen to what you're going to say and see an actual change or an actual effect from that. So
yeah, I think that's important too, especially in games like Dead by Daylight, to have to have people there that you can talk to without, because the devs would just be inundated with so many things at any given moment of the time. So to have people there that you can go to and mention things and speak up about it, and then have things acted on as well is massive. And I think it's really important to have, especially in a game like Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, 100%. And fingers crossed that I think that in my personal opinion, you are like a perfect candidate for the program. Very similar.
Right back at you.
Very similar to Carla in my eyes, in terms of you just bring out this wholesome and like beautiful community where you are trying to promote just 100% positivity. There's not a toxic bone in the body there that's wanting to bring out any of this negativity, both, even Dead by Daylight and just in streaming in general. So I think that's what they need. They don't need, yes people that are just going to agree with everything they say, and that's not what the program's about. But I think it's just being able to be honest, but also just having that positivity. It's something that is taken for granted these days, and it's rare to find. So it's one of the reasons that we all love, and I love watching and hanging out in your stream, is because of that. The ability to bring together people and have, like, I know you definitely have that comfy stream vibe where you can just put the stream on and you can. It just feels good. It feels like you're hanging out with a friend, which I think is like the perfect way to enjoy and have a stream when you're playing a game that's about running away from a murderous killer or something like that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, keeping like a good sportsmanship vibe in games, I think is massively important. So I try to do that as best I can.
Yeah, and you smash it. So
Thank
fingers
you.
crossed, I will be your biggest advocate to
Right back at
to make
ya.
that to make that happen one day.
Thank you. It's really kind.
um, the we've been talking for about an hour now. I still have some other stuff if you
Yeah, of
are able to
course.
keep chatting away to me. One of the big things that I've been looking at and that I've been kind of wrestling with for the last couple of months is I've been teaching a lot of new people, not only on my stream, but I've also I think you know this, but I've taught two of my sisters and my mum to actually play this game now, so we can actually have a full family Swift when
I
when
love
we play a
that.
Survivor now. And
I love that.
I would say mum is more obsessed with this game than I am now. So
Really? Oh, that is
yeah,
amazing.
she puts more hours in than I do now, which is quite a quite a feat. And obviously, you know, streaming, I love to help new players out
Yeah.
and you know, kind of give them advice and things like that. The big thing that has stood out for me is teaching this the rules, the Survivor rulebook or the Killer rulebook or the hidden rules that are shown that are in the game, but they're not in the game. If that makes
Yes.
sense. So
The unspoken
basically,
rules.
yeah, exactly. I there was a post online that I saw directed to another streamer, but I really liked it, so I just kind of wanted to talk about it. Basically, the gap in experience from people who have just started in their first year, or people that have been playing since the first year, not necessarily like learning the game's mechanics, as in like how to run, how to look behind you, how to kill the players, but actually what we just said, you know, that mindset of Survivor rulebook, you have to do
Yeah.
this certain thing, you have to not do this thing to enjoy the game or to make sure you're not annoying the other side. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but was there, from your memories of this game, has it evolved over time since when you first started? Does it kind of feel different now does it feel like there's more rules, basically? Does it feel like there is more of these unwritten rules that you have to go by, or were these always in the game from the very start?
A little bit, but it's hard to say. I never played Killer until recently. So
Yep.
for the first, literally for like the first like 3.5 years of me playing the game, I only played Survivor. So kind of everything I knew was from kind of just playing and hoping for the best. And I think too, it's kind of tricky because if you don't like if you don't watch Dead by Daylight on Twitch or on YouTube or anything, if you're only playing the game, I think it's almost tricky to know what these quote unquote unwritten rules are without really having like anyone mention it to you or anything like that. It's just really tricky to navigate. I would say I think that they have kind of evolved, that more people are aware that like if you're talking about like unwritten rules of not tunneling and not camping and that kind of thing, which I think it makes it so much trickier because they are tactics. Like at the end of the day, even though they are like unwritten rules that you shouldn't do that and that kind of thing, that it is still a tactic at the end of the day. And it's another one of those like risk versus reward of, if you do sit next to a hooked survivor and just wait for them wait for them to die on hook, that is a chance for 3 other survivors to either escape or to do the gens and escape. And it is, at the end of the day, it is just another tactic.
Yeah, true.
Which makes it a bit tricky, but I would say they have kind of evolved a little bit, but it's hard to say. I try not to do like either of those things because, like, one, I'm still learning a lot as Killer, so I kind of need to try to be everywhere. If I was just to try and camp or something, I'm sure I may get a kill, but that's not
You're not
really
learn
fun.
as much as you want to.
That's it. I'm not learning as much. I'm just taking someone out of the game. That's really
Yeah.
it. I'm not trying to get into more chases or stop the gens from going or anything like that. So it's a bit of a hard one. What did you think?
Well, I pretty much agree with everything that you said, especially the thing about learning. This is the one topic or the one part of it that always frustrates me is that people are never going to learn. And because I'm such a learner just in
Yeah.
everything, I just want to always be learning something new. The day that I stop learning is the day that I stop living, basically, because I always want
Yeah.
to be learning something new, whether it's
100%.
gaming or editing YouTube videos or, learning how to live my life better or whatever it is. There's always something. So I feel like when people don't want to evolve even a tiny little bit or they don't even know and realize that I definitely think there's a lot of ignorance is too much, like probably too of a strong word, but there's definitely a lot of obliviousness, maybe to use a DBD term, or being
Yep.
oblivious. Like when it comes to the whole, I've hooked a survivor. I am a killer. I'm trying to kill the survivors. I'm going to kill this survivor because that's my job. And then I'm going to move on to the next one. And the game doesn't do a good job at kind of telling you that, yes, there are 5 generators on the map. Yes, there are there's totems on the map, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the game, I don't think, does a good job at telling you that you actually have to try and protect these things. It just says to you, you're a killer, go and kill people. Even in the tutorial, your job, it shows you how to break a pallet, it shows you how to kick a generator, I think, and it shows you how to grab a survivor out of a trap. It shows you how to trap someone, it shows you how to hook someone, and it shows you how to, chase someone and down them.
Exactly.
So it doesn't really show you too much. And a lot of these rules are killer rules that have been created by survivors. So this is why when we talk about it, we're probably mostly going to be talking about the killer side of things.
Yeah.
But I just think it is maybe now the responsibility of the game to kind of help with survivors, to help learn that there is no rule book. There is no way that you have to say you have to do this or you have to do that. But inherently, with your playstyle that you were saying, you try and play as fair as possible, which means that you are automatically, not that you're trying to do it, but you're automatically playing into that false survivor rulebook that's created because you're playing in a fair way, which is all it is. If you break it down, the survivor rulebook is just playing fairly for the survivors.
Yeah.
But there's kind of no flip reverse for the killer. So there's no killer rulebook where saying survivors aren't allowed to do 2 generators within 30 seconds of each other because it's too hard. There's nothing there for that. But there is one saying, well, you're not allowed to go for the same person who's in your face that's injured in front of you because that's tunneling and it's not fair.
Exactly.
Where that's the kind of thing where it brings into what you said, where it is a tactic, and sometimes you have to make those plays. And yes, even if you are trying to play the most fair that you can, a survivor will sometimes be the only person that you can find, and it is I think it can be unjustified to just kind of go off or get annoyed about these whole the rules that have been put in the game that aren't actually rules just because this thing's happened. So basically my question and something that we can kind of touch on and explore further is there a way for the game itself to potentially help with learning these extra rules, or is it just something that is a trial by fire and you have to just experience and get yelled at, or people get annoyed and deal with?
Yeah, that is a really good question, and it's also a very tricky one because sometimes you can be forced to play like that, like in terms of like there will be just as 2 examples. If there is a lobby and 3 of the survivors are playing the same character dressed the exact same, and you're trying to actively not tunnel, but you just go after the one you see, and that is the same person that just got unhooked, you can't really be called out for tunneling or anything when it was unintentional, because you can't if they're all dressed the same and everything, and the survivor looks the same as the other two, there is no way to tell.
Exactly.
And then on the camping front as well, sometimes you can have literally both doors 99'd. You get a survivor, and you hook them, and you literally can't go anywhere without throwing the whole game. So there's sometimes you literally just kind of have to, I guess, like proxy camp in a way, because you're kind of forced to, because the other survivors want to save. So at times there's not really anything that you can do about it, and it is just still a tactic.
That end game one is a little bit different, and that's the only time that I really say to people, because people ask me and they're like, well, is it okay to essentially camp or stand in front of the survivor that at the end of the game, when the doors are prepped or the doors are being done and there's no gens left? And I said, yes, it is, because at that point your objective is to kill the survivor, kill that survivor. There's nothing left to protect. There's no totem that you need to go and protect as a hex. There's no gens that are left. Your objective has become to kill that survivor. And I say has become that because in my eyes as a killer, your objective is to not kill 4 survivors. Your objective is to stop 5 generators from being done and the doors being powered.
Exactly.
That is my opinion, and that is how I see the game, which is why I tend to protect my generators more than potentially going for a kill if I have to or something. But I think if more people saw it like that, then they would understand, okay, objectives are done. Of course the killer's gonna stay at the hook because there's nothing else for them to do.
Exactly, yeah. And then if they're kind of trying to go between two different doors that are close together, that's enough time for the survivors to be able to unhook and then just get the 4-man escape anyway. So at that point, it's kind of like you may as well just kind of throw the game without, being able to stay at the one thing that the survivors will try to come back for, and that is another survivor. So at times you just kind of have to just try and forget about the unwritten rules in circumstances like that.
For sure.
But I think if the game is fun, like if you had a fun time, if the survivors had a fun time, I think that is like a massive win in itself. But I love personally like a lot of the new perks that they've just brought out, especially with like the Resident Evil chapter with Jill and Leon's perks of being like flashbang and blast mine and everything. They are able to kind of prolong the game that little bit more without you kind of expecting it. So I think, honestly, more meme perks.
Make the game less serious, and people will stop having all these rules.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. It's a bit of a tricky one, but I've been getting a lot of value out of the likes of Blast Mine. Like as an example, where the killer is going to like hook a survivor, come back and kick a gen because they seen you working on it. But little do they know you've actually just popped a blast mine on there, and you're already, over the next map over by the time that they get the pop on it. So I think if they could introduce more fun perks like that, it can kind of just automatically shift the game itself.
Make that journey more fun rather than the destination of the 4-person escape or the 4 kills. Make the actual middle chunk of it, which is what most people fight for and want as well, to have that more fun in the middle section, so that it doesn't matter if the end result isn't exactly what you wanted. You still manage to actually have some fun in the game, which is again what the game is all about. I agree with that for sure. I think that in terms of Dead by Daylight themselves, they have actually implemented things, maybe not to do with the rulebook per se, but they have implemented things where you lose blood points as a killer when you do stay near a hook survivor now.
Yeah.
You lose like an emblem state, so it does make it harder to rank up, or you don't get as many points because you're not going and chasing other survivors.
Exactly.
I think that's important. I don't know, as you said, there's so many different situations, and this game is so situational that you can't write down a rule book, because it would be too long. Like there would be too many different situations my only thoughts is when they do have the settings and they have the kind of like brief of what a totem is and what a generator is, and the survivor guide and the killer guide. Maybe in there could just be like a
mention of it,
even just like a best practices or something, like it's a workplace. But like even just it's best to even like not an FAQ, but a beginner's guide or something like that, where when you're jumping on killer for the first time, you go into it and it says when you've hooked a survivor, most of the time it's best to go and check for another survivor at a generator, or
that's it.
It's best to go and check for survivors near your hex totem or something. It's not saying you have to go and do this, but I genuinely think there are people out there that, as you said, they don't watch Twitch, they don't watch YouTube, they get on Dead by Daylight, they play their game, and they go into a game of killer and they kill a survivor by getting them on the hook, and that's my kill. Or vice versa. They play survivor, they say, I don't want to get in chases. There's that generator icon that says 5. I want that down to 0. I want to escape out that door. I don't need to interact with the killer. And then, you get the killers saying, boring, you're playing immersed, you're playing this. And I think potentially they could introduce something like that. It's not going to happen, but it's again goes down to that whole learning thing of people they need a way. Even if there was a link to a YouTube video in the actual settings. Yeah, exactly. And a beginner guide that like Otstava did, or even one of the devs did, have like Matthew Coate play a survivor game and just be like, oh hey, like this is normally what you do. I think we did a pretty good job so far. Like, he does the whole meme, and it couldn't create something. Maybe that will help. That will help people. Yeah,
even having like something to do in the tutorial of like a pros and cons of like, sure, you can camp this one survivor, but this is what happens, for it happening. That one survivor is dead, but you don't get any more blood points or anything because they weren't hooked 3 times prior to their death, or that you can't hit particular emblem things without needing to try and like work out each one by itself, that they actually just kind of have pros and cons around different play styles. I think that could be really neat as well. But it is a bit of a tricky one, because you do have like some of the perks that can counter them. Like you have the likes of Unbreakable Soul Guard if you've been slugged, or Borrowed Time if the killer is hanging around the hook, or like anything like that. So that there is perks, but in terms of like knowing where to find what can be frowned upon in the game is another thing. So yeah, maybe a pros and cons thing in the tutorial of like just different play styles. I kind of
like that idea.
Yeah,
just
it'd be
give
fun.
People a little bit more information. Not saying you have to play a certain way or you have to do this. Just the fact that it can help them make more decisions. Because I've been going against. I'll ask you a little bit about your MMR experience if you've played since the update. But basically, since the new skill-based matchmaking has come into the game, my first couple of days, I've actually gone back to killer now a little bit more than I have in previous times. I wanted to try out some killer because, playing my main killer, I wanted to see what it would be like playing Wraith and who I would be going against, because that's the killer I have the most time in.
Yeah.
And I'm playing against a lot of survivors that I already know, the ones that I normally played against. So my matchmaking is very good. It's putting me against people that I should be playing against. But I'm also experiencing some of the hardest games because I've taken off that gen regression, and because I'm playing against teams of 3 and 4 that are, very efficient with what they're doing, and they're not memeing around. They're just getting in there to get gens done and get out. But I've noticed that when I switch to Survivor, I'm actually experiencing a lot more of the tunnely and campy style that I haven't actually experienced a lot of before the skill-based matchmaking, where killers are, you said borrowed time, you get the borrowed time hit, the killer runs hits that person. Oh, they've got borrowed time. They switch to another survivor. I'm noticing a lot of hit the borrowed time hit, continue to go for that person, down them again, don't care about decisive strike, hit them again, hook them again, and it's like an active and a knowledgeable like tunnel of one person rather than it seems like they're doing it. They know what they're doing. It's not like they're unsure. That's just how they think the game is.
Yeah,
it feels like it's like an intentional thing. So I don't know if you've experienced any of that kind of stuff in your Survivor games or anything lately since the new matchmaking.
Yeah, I've only played Survivor since the MMR has been in effect like since Thursday, right? Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
I've only played Survivor, and that was also in Swift on Saturday. So I haven't played like solo or anything yet to know, to kind of know if how it'll be or how I don't really know how Swift can affect, like how the MMR would go if it just kind of like levels out or anything.
It averages out over whoever's in your team. So if you have people with 2 with low MMR and 2 with a high MMR,
Right.
It'll probably give you a medium. If you have 3 low and then 1 high, it'll probably put you on the lower end of the spectrum, considering compared to the high.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's still a little bit tricky to say. On Saturday, some of the games it was kind of hit and miss. Some of them went like really well. And then other times it was like you had to kind of like really focus to be able to. So I think for the most part though, it's going to be really good. I'm a little bit worried to see what my killer MMR will be, and to see how that goes. But Survivor, it wasn't too bad so far, but I do want to give it some more time and like a couple of weeks and stuff to see how it does balance out, because ultimately the longer it's, the longer it's going, the more accurate it should be.
Exactly.
So yeah, I hope that it should level out and be, still lots of fun in games, but not, you need to try and just smash out 5 gens and escape. Otherwise, there's no way you're making it out, kind of thing. I still hope it's still a good mix of fun and that added competitiveness into it as well to try and win too. So I hope it stays like a good mix of both. But I want to give it some more time before.
Of course, it's very early on.
Yeah, that's it, and that's tricky too. And I think that's important to remember, is that the algorithm can only go off so much information without it being, in effect and get more accurate the longer it goes. So, and
there's so much it has to take into account. We a smaller region. There's different queue times. There's different amount of players compared to the NA and the EU servers.
Exactly.
We have the smaller player base, so it's not going to be as accurate probably as it should be, depending on what it does take into account when it is looking for the matchmaking. I've been experiencing quite long queue times sometimes when I'm playing killer, because it's a high MMR and maybe there's not as many people playing with a high MMR at that point. I know during the day some of my friends have been experiencing like 15-20 minute queues with their main killer, because killer queues are usually slowish during the day anyway. But they've been adding on like an extra 10 minutes because there's not as many survivors in their bracket to go against them. So I think it definitely is showing a difference in people that maybe don't know that they're kind of like doing these unwritten rule things compared to people that do. Because I think people in a higher MMR bracket would know the way that the game, the most fair way the game is meant to be played. But we'll use it as a strategy and a tactic, which against a full Survivor team, a full Swift, where this team is very, very good. That they're all capable of chases, they're all capable of gens and all of that. Then it's a tactic, and it probably has to be done, to be honest, to give the killer some sort of chance at even keeping up with a really good Swift. But with those, there's definitely those killers, again, just to reiterate, that I see where I know that they're just the type of person. They're either someone that doesn't care about the other side at all, which who are we? We can't force them to care about the other side, but they just play simply for themselves, and as a killer, like I was saying before, when I first started DBD, that is what it is. Killer is just you. If
Exactly.
you forget the other side and you think, okay, well, I'm just the killer and I need to do what I need to do, then you're probably still going to have a lot more fun. And if you have the end game chat off, if you play on PS4 or console where you don't have the end game chat and you just, you don't get any messages from survivors or anything like that, then you're still really going to enjoy yourself. So I found that that rulebook and everything, you can probably, for the most part, if you just play fairly, and if you think, I think what you said it best, where if you think that you've played a fair and fun game, or if you flip yourself to the other side and think, okay, if I played a killer that played like this and I was playing Survivor, would I have had fun? And if the answer is yes to that, then I think that you're doing a good job.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree completely with that. At the end of the day, if everyone's having fun, which is why we all do play games, then it's just going to be a fun time for everyone, whether or not like the unwritten rules in for Survivor and Killer. But it's just it'll just be a good time for everyone.
Exactly. So I guess in summary, hopefully, maybe there's like it would be cool to see a pros and cons thing. Your idea, I would like to see that come into the game at some point, just to give some sort of idea, and even just putting the idea in someone's head that, okay, maybe I can change my playstyle up a bit. Maybe I'm sick of only getting the one kill and getting frustrated at myself because I'm only getting one kill. Like, what can I do to get better? Maybe a link to a YouTube video or something like that in their in-game explanations of everything, or potentially bringing in certain penalties to blood points, because I find, as we said before, this is mostly killer aimed, because just the main killer gripes that they have is flashlights being clicked at them and survivors teabagging up and down and and that kind of stuff. And while that is frustrating to see when you're playing killer, most of the time I would say it's actually not done out of toxicity. It's a lot of the time a good survivor is doing that because they're trying to get under your skin a little bit, and they're trying to distract you and make you chase them because they're a strong player in the game. And it works a lot of the time. But then when basically they get baited into a strong chase, then that's when the killer often will struggle with the rest of the game, because they just get hell-bent on getting this one person. Which also then leads to another situation where they might be like, yep, I've got my prey, I'm camping this person out till the end of the game, and then all of that rigmarole happens. So
that's it. And I think too, it's important to remember that if a survivor is like actively clicking the flashlight at you, trying to get you to chase them, while they're doing that, they're not progressing the game at all.
Exactly.
So you can use that to your advantage. I generally won't chase anyone that is doing that. I'll be like, nope, okay, you're not on a gen. That is not a worry for me at the moment. And then I'll just continue on my way to go and check another gen or see anything like that, because chances are they're going to keep following me to try to get me into a chase. And unless they're right in front of me, I generally won't. I just try to not pay any attention to it, and then just keep on my way, because that's one less survivor doing gens at that point. So can kind of work out well.
Sadly, that means you'll never chase me then. I'm that little annoying clicky shit that's just like, hey, come and follow me, please.
Chase me.
Come and chase me. I in saying that, I don't think we've ever played against each other before.
I don't think so. We need to make it happen.
I watched you play against Miss Granny Bacon the other day, and that was hilarious because I was watching both streams.
Oh yeah,
and,
that was when I was playing Killer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was cool to see that. But then I was like, Miss Granny Bacon and I are both solid survivors. I feel like I should have got Val in my game at some point, but I still, for as much as I can remember, I feel like we've never got in a game with each other. So
yeah,
I gotta try and not snipe your game to get into your game.
I can't wait.
One thing that we like to do, I feel like we kind of smash that topic. It is a hard one to kind of talk about in terms of what's right and what's wrong, because there's no real correct answer.
That's it,
It's
yeah.
all based on how you play the game and how serious you take the game or casually you take the game. So, as long as people are having fun, like you said, then that's the main thing. I do like to talk about the shrine that's the current shrine that's in the
Oh, yeah.
the daily shrine is what I'm trying to say. The weekly shrine that has all the perks in it. So I don't know if you like normally that's the last thing we go over. So if you want to just like go over those perks with me, we
Yeah,
just
of
have a little
course.
chat about them, see if they're worth getting. Because I think again with another thing, it's always nice. It's hard to know what's useful in the shrine if you're a casual player that maybe doesn't play as much.
Yeah.
You might not know that this perk's actually quite good or bad or goes actually well with another one. So you're, contrary to what I did think, you're playing, you've got more experience with Survivor. So I guess did you want to kind of like touch on the Survivor perks? The first one being botany knowledge.
Yeah.
So a Claudette perk.
A Claudette perk, yeah. Increasing healing speeds and the efficiency of medkits. It's a good perk, but I think generally Claude is like one of the first survivors that I had like put blood points into as well.
Yep.
So I I wouldn't grab that only based on her being one of the first characters I put my blood points into. So it was one of the first teachables to unlock. But
Being a free character as well.
Exactly,
yeah. That you don't have to pay for or anything.
Exactly. It is a good perk though. It is a good perk. I don't tend to see it ran too often anymore, honestly.
It's actually one of my favorite perks in the game.
Really?
Botany knowledge, because I'm a selfish care gamer. So I'm a self care and botany knowledge perk runner. So if you go to my Survivor page and you click through every build, I have pretty much for the most part the most identical looking builds ever. I have the exact same build on all 27 survivors.
I love that.
Which includes self-care and botany knowledge. I used to play a lot of solo queue.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful for solo queue because you actually get a 33% faster heal speed on your self-care.
And that's
so
massive.
it takes your self-care from being 50% to about 80%. So you actually only heal 20% slower than you would if a survivor is healing you. And I believe it's 16 seconds for a survivor to heal another survivor fully.
Yeah, I think it's around that.
Or is it 8 seconds? It's one of the. I thought it was 8 seconds for 2 and 16 seconds for 1. But basically, it takes me about just over 20 seconds or 20 seconds to heal myself from injured to fully healed with self-care and botany knowledge. And that 20 seconds that someone has saved from healing me means that that's 20 seconds they could have cleansed a totem or put 20 seconds into a generator and not had to worry about me. So I definitely think that botany knowledge is worth unlocking on Claudette, but as you said, probably not worth unlocking from the shrine.
Yeah.
Unless you have heaps of shards just lying around where you don't know what to use them with and you don't want to put the points into Claude. The other one is No Mither.
Good old
So,
No Mither.
The bit of a meme perk, you would say.
Yep.
To run. It's a perk that as content creators we get thrown a lot. I'm sure, especially combined with a bit of self-care in
Of
there or
course.
something, or a bit of For the People where you completely can't use any of your perks.
Exactly.
This is David's perk. What would you say about what was this? How's this one in your eyes?
I like it because it is such a meme perk. I often find that the main time I get slugged is when I have no mither, which is one of the most ironic things in the world. I don't know what it is, but for some reason I get slugged more often than not when I have no mither. And I'm often just able to get straight back up and just run away again. So I don't know what it is about that perk, but I'm like, do they realize I'm running no mither?
Yeah.
I could just keep getting back up all day.
Exactly. It's so funny, isn't it, when you when you have a killer hit you and down you with, and you have no mither, and then they leave you on the ground, and you think, okay, they're not gonna slug me. They're not gonna leave me on the ground.
That's it.
Oh, and they've left me on the ground, and I'm back up. And you're like, well, that person hopefully will never do that ever again. But you're never too sure.
That's it.
Basically, if you're wondering what no mither does, it suppresses your bleeding, so you're injured the whole entire game, so you're broken. So when you play against Plague and she vomits on you and you get that little broken symbol on you, meaning you can't heal. Basically, you are injured. You're permanently injured for the whole entire game, but you don't bleed. So there are some upsides to it.
Yeah.
You also, at the highest tier 3, you have a 50% reduced in your grunts of pain. So it's basically like an iron will kind of popped into there, or a half iron will. I normally run iron will when I run no mither anyway, just to completely be silent, because if you're running, especially if you're running this on like David or Jeff or something, they are quite loud survivors, and hearing them moan the whole entire game is not the most fun time.
No.
And as you said, you can completely recover from the dying state. So running no mither with like no mither, even soul, even having a soul guard or unbreakable in there, just so you can get that recovery up as fast as possible. Even add flip flop in there maybe if they do leave you slugged for a little bit, and doing some meme stuff. I wouldn't really go out of your way to get it from the shrine once again.
I wouldn't,
because
either.
David is a character that you can get. David's just a character that you can get from the free game anyway.
Exactly.
But,
and chances are he's already
half.
Yeah, that's it. He's already like half leveled up mostly anyway for like when you try to get dead hard.
Yeah, we're gonna live forever. Like David's super
He's got some
solid.
good perks.
So
yeah.
If you haven't, both of us would suggest putting some points into David.
Yeah.
Because his teachables are quite good. Now the killer perks, these two perks are one is kind of useful, and then one is a little bit, I wouldn't say memey, but just a little less useful. The first one's surveillance. So this is a pig perk. So basically, when you kick a generator or a generator is regressing, it gets highlighted in white. And then if that progress is interrupted, the regression that is, it'll go yellow for a certain amount of time, 16 seconds at the highest tier. I actually didn't know that surveillance increases the audible range of survivors' generator repair noises by 8 meters. I actually didn't.
I didn't
I don't
either.
think I knew that.
I didn't either. That's interesting.
That's quite interesting. So not only it actually makes sense as to why I've seen some people run it, but never kick generators. It just means that they don't have to get that close to hear if the generator is being worked on. They can save those extra 8 meters. And if a generator is not being worked on, then they can just move on to the next area. So that's actually quite interesting. This perk is really, really good to be run with something like Ruin. I would say it works the best with Ruin because you don't have to actually do anything when you kick a generator. If you just push a survivor off, the gen turns white, and then it will go yellow, and you instantly know that there's someone back on there.
Exactly, yeah. It is a decent perk. I don't tend to run surveillance pretty much at all, honestly.
Yeah, if you're not running general aggression, you're probably not going to run surveillance unless you're doing like the adept.
Yeah, that's it. It's not too bad of a perk. I don't know if I would go out of my way to grab it though from the shrine. Maybe if I had just like leftover shards looking to spend, I might, but probably not if it's like, well, it's this, or I could get something next week. For me personally, I would hold off. Unless I think had excess shards.
If you've been looking for something, if you feel like something's missing from your killer build and you're already running like your Ruin on dying, or even pop can still be useful. If you feel like something's missing from your build, I think surveillance could be something that helps you, because at the very least it's going to give you a bit of information once you've kicked the generator to know that a survivor's going back, and at the very, very least it's going to give you that audible range increase of the generators being repaired.
That's it.
But yeah, I would probably say save your shards. This this shrine seems like a bit of a save your shards kind of week.
Yeah.
Pig doesn't have the greatest other perks, so I wouldn't say going for Pig as a whole entire character, because usually, I would suggest purchasing a character all out instead of going for one of their perks, because the rest of their perks are quite good.
Yeah.
But I mean, she does have Make Your Choice.
I love
think,
Make Your Choice.
and that's quite good. I've actually been seeing Make Your Choice work in a way that it not necessarily means that you get to down that survivor, but it puts that survivor into like a state of panic for that next amount of time. So usually they stop doing everything and they hide, and that in itself is already working with you because they're not doing anything.
Exactly, yeah. I tend to run Make Your Choice more on Ghostface than anything, to be honest.
You can get sneaky and sneak up
Very sneaky.
Once they've got it on them. I was watching Geef play as well. He runs it on Blight, and basically he said he doesn't get a lot of insta downs with it, but what he does is he gets insta pallets get thrown because people are scared of getting hit, and he's able to move around the map so quickly that he can like get rid of a chunk of pallets because people are scared of taking that hit. So I was actually like, oh, that's actually quite a smart usage. Of that
great.
Of the perk.
I love that.
The last perk is Knockout. So this is a Bubba or Cannibal perk. This is probably one of my least favorite perks in the game.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it.
Because it hurts my ears when it happens. It does that weird, like, muted kind of sound thing.
I hate that sound.
Basically, when a survivor runs Knockout, when they put you into a dying state with a basic attack, your aura is not revealed to any survivor that's further than 16 meters, 32 meters, or 24 meters, depending on the tier of the perk. So basically, you can't see the survivor that's lying down on the ground, so you have no idea where they've gone down. So if they've gone down near you and you're further than 16 meters away from them, then you're not going to know where they are. So for that next 15 seconds, the dying survivor suffers from a decreased field of view and the blindness status effect, and crawls 50% slower. Now, this is, as we were saying, the decreased field of view. It does like this weird, this weird like explosion that kind of happens.
Like the screen, it feels like the screen kind of like pulsates, like the blood around it. And the sound is not pleasant.
It's not
to
at all.
say the least.
It kind of works well against a Swift. If you think that if a Swift is on comms and is telling you it's trying to tell someone where they've gone down, the fact that you get that blindness and that you crawl slower potentially stops you from crawling to a pallet or something. I know that there's some killers out there that do run Knockout simply to counter Swifts, basically, meaning that they try and go for slugging builds where they slug all the survivors, and it's harder to pick up your teammates and everything when you don't know where they are on the ground.
Yeah.
So I don't really. This perk is, it's a bit of a meme, to be honest. It doesn't really have much practical use in a normal game. To be honest, most people that I see run this are playing in a pretty less than ideal way from my experiences, and
it's a very aggressive perk. I think is the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, exactly. I would say this is a not get. This is a don't even think twice. I would say I would get this, even though this comes from a killer that is a killer you have to purchase as a licensed killer. I would honestly say get Botany Knowledge or No Mither over Knockout if you like had to spend your shards this week and get a perk from the shrine. I would it would probably be one of the last perks that I would get. In saying that, though, if you do enjoy a slugging build where you like to put a bunch of survivors on the ground, then it's probably the perfect perk.
That's it. That's it. Oh man.
So not a super good shrine this week, but it can't always be good,
Exactly.
We've had some good shrines. We've had Ruin in the shrine last week, and Decisive Strike's been in there recently, I'm pretty sure as well. But yeah, we got to go through mountains and pages of perks, so they can't
100%.
always have the good ones in there. Now, from the start, is there anything that is there any kind of like sneak preview or kind of hints that you can give if you haven't given away any information about your cosplay. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be too obvious. It can be cryptic, but is there anything maybe that you can spice up a little bit?
Ooh, the best thing
I don't want you to give too much away.
That's okay. I believe that every cosplay I have planned that like should be recognized, like as in like they're not like super obscure.
Okay.
Like, you know, just some random person that was briefly in the background of a movie somewhere. Something.
Survivor 3 in the background of this movie.
Yeah. And there is one thing in particular that was 3D printed and was about 110 hours worth of printing and about 40 hours of painting. And that's only one of the 2 things that will be to do with one of the cosplays.
Okay, so when we stop recording, I'm asking you what this is, but that sounds amazing. I love 3D printing. So you have a 3D printer at home, do you?
Yeah, it's my partner's.
So cool.
So he does most of the like the printing and like keeping it running and all that kind of thing. And I do all the painting side of it and all that. So
it blows my mind. My friend has a 3D printer and he's created some really, really cool things and painted them. And it is the way of the future, isn't it? The 3D printing.
It's awesome. It's so much fun.
Is there anything else that you... we pretty much reached everything that we had to talk about today. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask me or that you had on your mind at all, Dead by Daylight related or anything? Or you've happy to end there?
I guess for one last final question would be, what licensed chapter would you like to see?
See, I am the fake fan because I am not a real horror fan. Horror is like my I guess it's not my go-to in terms of movies and things that I watch.
Yeah.
But I think from thinking about the killer's perspective of what I would have liked to see in the game, every time I bring up a shapeshifter killer, everyone says to me, "Oh, so like The Thing." So I think I've never seen The Thing. I've never experienced anything about it. But I think if it was going to be a licensed thing or a licensed chapter, I reckon The Thing would be pretty cool to see because I would like to see some sort of shape-shifting, shape-shifting killer or something that changes the look of the killer or something like that.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I'm a fake horror fan.
That would be wicked.
What about you? What's your like big dream?
Oh, mine will always be. I've been saying this for like a year now, and I don't know why I'm so set on it, but I am dying for an Until Dawn chapter. I would love that so much.
A Wendigo?
Yes, a Wendigo, specifically like they are in Until Dawn, where they kind of rely more on the sound. So sounds would be quite amplified, and that they could leap for things. I think would be fun too, but the view of the map and that may be kind of like obscured or kind of like you have to kind of rely more on like sound and
would be so
something
cool.
something like that for Until Dawn. I think would be amazing, and it would kind of be very, very, very different than everything we've gotten from other killers so far.
Yeah, well, I love Until Dawn, so there you go. I'm not a fake horror fan. So thank you. You saved me there. I think it's cool because we saw Pinhead and we saw the different mechanics with the box. And when you play against Pinhead, it doesn't even feel like DBD sometimes.
Exactly.
It feels like a bit of a different game. So the Wendigo idea is really cool. And definitely, we've already, Spirit is heavily reliant on sound when using her phase and things like that. So there's already mechanics in the game that can potentially, ways that they can amplify sound with Strider and things like that. So the mechanics are in the game. So maybe,
I can hope.
Maybe they can. That's what I actually really. I'm on board with that. So
it'd be so much fun.
I would love to, because there's heaps of survivors that you can use as well. Like literally a whole cast of survivors that can come from that game too. So
exactly.
there's some real cool people in that, and there's some real bitches in that. I'm not gonna lie. So,
Yeah.
Emily, I'm looking at you.
That's it. We just need Sam. Sam as
Yeah,
the as a
exactly.
survivor would be amazing.
The sweetest.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm so happy we get to end on that note, because it's been such a pleasure to be able to speak to you. I've wanted to do this for so long, ever since we thought of Quixie and I thought of the whole podcast idea. You were, I think that you were potentially the first person that we actually thought of. That we wanted to have on. So it's been
so cool.
10 or 9 episodes now, but I'm super happy that I've finally managed to take up some of your time and get to chat with you.
No, thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
But yeah, thank you. I'll just continue to say thank you, because it always means a lot to me when people want to come on here and talk about themselves, but also Dead by Daylight. So yeah, I look forward to catching your streams. I'll keep all your links and everything. Do you do any YouTube stuff at the moment, or just Twitch? What's your focus?
A little bit. So dabbling in YouTube and TikTok as well.
Okay.
But yeah, Twitch is the main one at the moment. I've just kind of fallen a bit behind on the TikTok and YouTube front with everything, trying to get everything ready for Halloween and everything. So
Yep.
it is a bit tricky,
Okay,
but
cool.
hoping to jump back onto the TikTok and YouTube stuff soon. Just don't want to
Awesome.
fall
Well,
behind.
I'll make sure people go and check you out everywhere. And if you haven't before, please go and make sure you go and check out Val. You will not be disappointed. I can 100% vouch and guarantee that you'll have a good time. So thank you so much again, Val, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we get to chat soon.
Thank you so much. You too. It's been so much fun.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for taking a trip into the fog with us this week. Make sure to go and check out Val on Twitch, and feel free to send an email or tweet with your thoughts of the new skill-based matchmaking or Pinhead release. Until next week, may the fog treat you well, and all your games end with closing a hatch in the survivor's face.